Let me tell you, even the professors are confused. In most colleges, it's a cat and mouse game saying, did the student use AI for submission or no?
Mechanical engineer, 22 years old. And he's showing me apps that he's vibe coded using Firebase, using React and all of that. And for me, it was stunning in a very positive way.
Coding is dead, software engineering is not.
People who are losing jobs are not able to adapt that fast.
How can an individual build a sellable app?
What you need to do to start off, a single line English prompt going into Gemini, which will give you the code, will give you the front end, and even maybe populate part of the database for you. They don't need to learn all of CSS and HTML and Java and all of that to get to a minimum working prototype.
Like consider this kind of tools as a Nitro mode for developers.
So I had 3 teachers during the vibe coding process.
3 teachers.
3 teachers. Okay. And I think that's all people need today. One is called...
So the thing what we have is that how can an individual build a sellable app, whether they are in college or a new graduate? So obviously, I think people have been building websites and apps for a living, especially in college, right? So now using AI, what is it that they can do? Who wants to go first?
Maybe I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I think it's an amazing time to do that, because until now there's been a bit of a barrier to understand, do I know the whole thing? Can I code it? You know, there would be a lack of confidence or a little self-doubt. And with the first version of a code being given by the models itself, it just gives you confidence. It just gives you some feedback. Okay, can this work? They don't need to learn all of CSS and HTML and Java and all of that to get to a minimum working prototype. And that is a huge boost in confidence, right? So all that new entrant into this industry, whether they are still in college or just passed out of college, or even if they're shifting from some other line of work into software, is to just start coding something. And today, if you go into tools like AI Studio, give a prompt, it gives you a full web page, a working web page with everything in there. And I think that first adrenaline rush of seeing a working, clickable, responding app is a big first step in building the rest of it, right? But of course, there is more to do after that. But I think just to get to this first stage is a huge, huge thing right now that is possible.
I'll add to that. I think it is to sell the product first and then build the product. Talk to people who you think would be your buyers, and if you find somebody, just use the LLM, use the AI, that speed to quickly build something, that POC, and then if people agree to it, you probably have a big idea coming ahead in front of you and a big opportunity to unlock. So I think with AI, that's unlocking that you're able to sell. Even if you don't know how to sell, you know how to generate the messages, you know how to do outreach, you know how to quickly build a POC, and you can do that at God's speed.
Wow.
I keep thinking working with these systems is like learning a new language. You will not get it right the first time, right? So first time, I'm pretty sure anyone who's tried vibe coding, you do something simple, yeah, that works well. But when you try doing something complex, the whole thing falls apart. You need to keep at it to get better, right? But to answer, how do you build an app? The one word answer is skills. Now it's fascinating. The last few months, the way skills have taken on every platform. You take Claude, you take Codex, you take Anti-Gravity, everywhere you can package skills. Now, what are skills, right? Simplest thing is, I want to build a team. I want a front-end developer. I want a UX developer. I want someone who handles backend. Post that, I want someone who handles marketing. All I can do is I can go to one of these tools and say, write me a persona for this. Tell me what tools they need to have access to. Package it in a skills.md file. Anyone can go find out how to make a skills.md and build your workflow. The moment you do that, you have a team. I've done this. I know I'm probably a little older than most of your community. I started my career coding, stopped in 2005. I got back last year, right? So it's a 20-year break. After 20 years, landscape has changed completely. I think one of the first things, and I think the initial friction point is just figuring out how GitHub works, because that's one of the anchors of how to get things moving. But beyond that, these tools are amazing. Yeah, I've been able to get 2 production systems live with this matter, right? With one backend engineer.
Wow. Since before I go to Harsh, you said you're probably the older than the developers. So the age is just a number now. It's democratized age also, right?
Yeah.
So now the AI it doesn't give you any advantage if you're young or you're old. What
doesn't.
probably needs is that you have to have interest and the idea to get something done. Then it
I think
happens.
youngsters have another advantage that they don't have to unlearn.
Yeah.
Most of the older developers I talk to come back and they have these patterns saying, no, 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 this cannot work because I've seen it. I've been around 10 years. This is how it works. Dunia badal gayi hai.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
whole thing is different now.
Right.
If I may add an example, I joined a business networking group recently, and I saw he's about 22 years old. He's inherited his dad's business in solar and in that area, mechanical engineer, 22 years old, and he's showing me apps that he's white coded using Firebase, using React, and all of that. And for me, it was stunning in a very positive way that anybody with any background is able to build apps today, and he's using it as a part of his business, right? So he's not necessarily building it for somebody else, and he's built it himself. In that same group, there was a person, I would say is about middle-aged from the looks. He's been running a travel company, and he's showing me a CRM that he's built himself that he's using for his company, right? So the idea of age, which industry you're coming from, none of that matters now because of the power that is just inherent in code being generated.
So I can relate it with one example, like Need for Speed game. If you played, like there was a nitro mode in that. Like you're driving a car, press the nitro mode, you'll get the speed. So I consider this kind of tools as a nitro mode for developers. If you know how to write code, if you can structure it, if you can imagine what functions needs there, which files you need to create, which libraries you need to create, it's a nitro mode for them. So that's one. And second is, even if you don't know those things, this is a starter kit. Right? You start it, but thing is that don't just rely on it. Understand what it's writing. Don't just blindly accept all those changes. You may never know, it can delete some of your files as well, right? So don't just blindly rely on accepting all those changes. Understand what it's doing. Use it as a nitro mode and a starter kit.
My advice would be for people who just want to explore, want to build, go to one of the events conducted by some of the community people, because you'll realize with a little support and guidance that is actually very easy. When you don't know what is there, of course, there's an anxiety of, I don't understand computers, I don't understand software. And that might block you from even starting to do something on your own. But you go get a little guidance at one of the many events that the GD groups or Build with AI, is doing, is conducting across India, across the world. That becomes a safe space in which somebody gives you guidance, helps you to get that first couple of steps, and then you're off running, right? So sign up for one of these, maybe it's like just a morning on a Saturday, get there, do something, you will have your confidence.
And like once you have that running, you get that dopamine, that it is working, right? So there is no stop
a new toy for you.
Yeah.
You can't leave.
So I had 3 teachers during the vibe coding process.
3 teachers.
3 teachers. Okay. One was called ChatGPT, one was called Gemini, and one was called YouTube. Right? That's all I needed. And I think that's all people need today.
Yeah.
There is enough content. If you're confused, you just need to ask the right question. Sometimes if you don't know the right question, you just go back and say, help me ask the right question. They will tell you what the question is, right? Say, go back and say, okay, I want to start vibe coding. How do I start? Either of these, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT will come back and tell you saying, start with XYZ. Then what else do you want, right? All you need is now, and India used to have this thing, right? Khelo India, Khelo. It's the same thing. We just play. Just play with these tools, get a little more comfortable. I think you build confidence, immense confidence in this. And then we come back and say all the things that I thought I wasn't. What is a developer? What could I do? I think all that I can leave behind.
Now, Sheen, I'll give one example from the recent events we are doing. Like we are running series called Build with AI Prompt Wars, where we are inviting developers and giving them limited time, 3 to 4 hours time to come up with a solution. So initially, if you being to participated in hackathon, problem statements were announced long before coming to those space, right? Developers come prepared, they have the tool system, everything ready. this series campaign, we're not giving them problem statement beforehand. It's just announced after participants are in the house, right? And I see them still being confident. Why? Because they have access to these tools. They have access to these tools where any problem statement you give us, any problem statement, we'll prompt it, we'll come up with a plan, we'll iterate it, and we'll be able to at least build and solve those problems.
Interesting.
Right? So it's adding their confidence as well. Like we can build anything.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So now moving on. So this agents is a big buzzword, right? So everybody wants to know about agents. So what is your advice for developers, right? Should we use agents? How important it is to use? What's your view, Satish, on that?
So agents are cool, but you don't need to know it to get started. Okay. And what you'll see when you see a lot of literature and blog posts is there's going to be a lot of big words. There's going to be decoding, and there's about quantization. There's going to be RAGs. There's going to be embedding, and it is all of that is occasionally and often built for very niche requirements. Most cases don't need that. I'm building a couple of apps right now that don't use any of that, right? No embedding, no RAG, no quantization, no sequencing, none of that. I can just take a line of prompt, send it to Gemini, and get the responses that I want to build a complete app. Okay, so agents will be useful in an advanced use case when you've got your own data, your own company, private data. Wonderful. Okay, but that's phase 2. What you need to do to start off, if you are just starting off, is a single line English prompt going into Gemini, which will give you the code, will give you the front end, and even maybe populate part of the database for you, right? So agents cool, but don't be you don't need to be frightened of it, or you don't need to be so concerned about it that you don't start just because you don't understand it, right? A basic prompt like you would give to a ChatGPT or Gemini to get a response is enough to build apps.
What's your view?
I think for most cases, agents are an overkill. There are lots of things that you can just do with skills and with files. Like, for instance, some of the cases that I've solved, rather than build an agent, I've gone back to to anti-gravity or Claude or one of these, and I said, hey, I have this use case, right? And I want to save on my token cost. I don't want to keep using it over and over again. I can see this process is repeatable. Can you write Python code for me? This is my input, this is the expected output, and package it in a skill. I don't want you running it independently. I will tell you saying, acha, ye file hai, do these 3 things and give me the output. You codify it for me. All I need to do is drop a file into one folder and it happens on its own, right? So we can actually do a ton of things just with skills and with these coding tools that we don't need agents for. Unless you're in a very large company, you're building very repeatable flows, I'd say start small.
What's your Harsh on agents?
Agent same. So what, as a developer, I've seen many participants. I'll give an example from the developer community. I've seen many developers using multi-agent system. What they are doing is, because I'm looking at these hackathons, seeing developers work on these hackathons. What they do is they pass a prompt. They hand over that prompt to an agent who defines the PRD. And that agent is developed using skills. So that specific agent has a skills MD file, which knows how to convert a problem statement to a PRD document in a specific format. That PRD document is handed over to another agent, which works on the front end side of it.
Yeah.
Right. It has maybe React, Next.js based skills, CSS based skills being added to it. Right, MD file. Post parallel to it, there is an agent who's working on backend. Maybe you need a dummy data. You need to create some database or maybe thousands of cells, rows as well. Creates a dummy data, SQL, or maybe a DB file, right? And then another one is who does the unit test cases or security cases on it. So I've seen developers using skills and small agents, creating an entire workflow, pass a problem statement, PRD to front end to back end. Someone is working on a DB file, then it goes to the security testing, and post that deployed as well. So those things
So in fact, I built one and I open source this. So I call it a virtual product factory, which does exactly this.
Right.
Because I don't need, our understanding of agents also has to be simplified.
Correct.
Exactly as you said, it's a workflow. It's a software workflow. I don't need anything complicated beyond that, right?
Most of times those are cron jobs.
These are cron jobs. Yes, exactly, right? Or they're triggers.
Triggers.
One one process generates one file, someone else says, hey, there is one file here, trigger activated, I do the next step. That's it.
Cool. So now, so a lot of people who are already starting to use Gemini or Claude or anti-gravity and things like that. So it's all fixated on how do they optimize token, how do they bring their cost down. So what are your advice or hacks?
So I have an agent running on WhatsApp right now that I've set up, right? And I've just said, forget everything that I've said 10 minutes ago. Because it's a WhatsApp chat, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed when I first built that agent, after a while, more than half my tokens were actually consumed on prior history. But if it forgets 10 minutes ago, I'm okay. I can just reset that context everywhere. So now what I do is I do a lot of this stuff. Second part is around memory. So again, there are enough tools around this, but you can set up very simple RAG. So there's one called Mem Palace that I'm trying out right now, that you don't need to read all the text content or code. You can actually use one of these to work out your problem. For production, I think just thinking through things is an LLM actually required. Like in many of I recently worked on a media site. When I was looking through the context, I found many media sites are saying AI summary. The moment you click on that, it generates a summary. Arey, why, yeah? I mean, every reader is looking for the same summary for the same article. Right? You generate it once and you cache it.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, just looking at what you can cache, what you can reuse, reduces your token cost significantly.
And one more to add on this, the flash model as well. So Gemini
Yeah.
3 flash, right? So my advice is if there's small tasks,
Yeah.
right? Like let's say for example, you need to update a menu, you need to update a footer, color, right? You don't need to use pro models in those, right? Just run a flash model. If there's no complex logic or no algorithm being developed or no research being done, use flash models. They're more complex task where you need to involve multi files as well. Right? Use pro. That will save a lot of context as well. Sorry, tokens. That will save a lot of tokens and may eventually save cost as well.
To circle back to another thing, if really token cost is an issue, they always are Gemma, right?
Yes.
So then you don't even need to worry about if you're going to be building long-term running apps also. What he said is brilliant though. The idea that you reduce context and, small fixes like that. But beyond that also, you always have Gemma to have infinite token output.
Yeah.
One of the first things is these are generic models, right? When you start, they don't know anything about you. So if you take a Gemini or if you take a ChatGPT or if you take a Claude, one of the first things I did was I went back and then all of them have this custom instructions, memories. And I went back and I said, okay, what do I want you to know about me? Right? And gems are great again. You can give a lot of custom instructions over there so that the context is personalized. Same thing, ChatGPT has folders. So all of them currently have ways that you can personalize for that one context. The second bit, and again, what I realize is I'm repeating a lot of the work. I do consulting. I'm working with one client. For another client, I want to repeat the same thing. Earlier, what I would do is I'd go back, create another version of that slide deck, then change something and go on. It's a repetitive process, right? And I want to be as lazy as possible. That's my intention. So what I did was I figured out that you have Google Workspace CLI. A lot of my data is anyway on Google Drive. I pulled all of it and converted it to Markdown. Right, so I have a personal vault where I have all the work I've done is over there in Markdown files. It's all arranged so that when I have a new task, they just need to go back, read a particular set of files, and generate something new. I do writing, for instance. One of the things I did in personalization is we all know the ChatGPT literature, right? Everyone's now become Shakespeare because of ChatGPT. LinkedIn posts. And you can make out what is written by ChatGPT, what is not, right? And I said, I don't want ChatGPT to write for me, but I want these tools to edit for me. So what I've done is I've set up an editorial board, and I've also created files which says how does Srinath write based on what I want. What does he like? Each of the editors have a scoring rubric. So when I write something, I give it to that. It does a scoring and comes back to me and says, okay, this is what is good, what is bad, and this is how you can improve your draft. So again, just playing around, a lot to do for that.
Interesting.
The relevance of computer science education. So there are a lot of people who are going through computer science education now. How important is computer science fundamentals in today's context?
So I get this question almost daily at our community event. So many students, many developers ask these questions. So I tell them you still need to know fundamentals. Reason.
So what would you do if you are a student, if you are a second year student now,
Huh.
like just imagine, hypothetical question. You are a second year student studying in PES, information technology. What would you do?
So I'll not spend more time in learning syntax. I'll be very honest. I'll not spend more time in learning syntax, but I'll still spend time in learning how computing works, how web app works, how mobile app works, what are the security parameters to it, right? How you can modernize the applications as well. I may not spend enough time in learning syntax, but still algorithms are important. Reason, if you are in an autonomous car, right? If you don't know the rules, traffic rules, you cannot take it over. Right?
Yeah.
So tomorrow, if AI fails, I cannot wash my hand that it's AI's mistake.
Yeah.
No, if I am a developer, if I'm using AI, I'm also equally responsible to it. What's been generated, what's been accepted by me. So if I don't know those fundamentals, I cannot wash my hand.
One way I say is coding is dead, software engineering is not.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Software engineering still matters a lot. Everything that you said is all software engineering. That I might not know the syntax, but I need to know how the system operates.
System operates. And second, path to specialization has become easy now. Right? So if someone wants to build a career in cybersecurity, they have a path to specialize it very easily now. Right? So there are many tools available, many skills available. They can learn those things and even practice on their own as well. So it's a both side thing.
So I have a pushback on this. If the machine is doing software engineering,
No, machine is doing coding. You're doing software engineering.
Yes.
machine will you put agents, it will do software engineering. No?
No. So what is it that you need to know, right?
So you can see, boss. The fact of life is that a lot of people are not jobs are getting replaced. Right? That means there are so many engineers doing engineering work that the machine has taken over. That's the reality. Then why are the people? Why is the workforce being shrunk?
I think rather than replaced, they are being reinvented.
Boss,
they
people
are
are
being
losing jobs. No?
Same thing, Karthik, happened during Industrial Revolution as well. Right? When less machines
So
or when
what I want to say is that do you all agree that jobs are being replaced by machines?
they're
No.
re-skilled.
Yeah, reskilled or reinvented. Like
Oh,
that.
okay, so you mean
I
to
would
say
agree.
that-
I would agree with you.
I would agree to.
Huh?
I would agree with you. It's a real risk today. Let's not have any illusion about
Yeah, that's
that.
what I'm saying.
Right? Let's not say the world of TCS, Infosys coming and hiring 100,000 people is over.
It's over. That's
Right?
what I'm trying.
Let's not be
That's
in
the
that
elephant in the
comfortable.
room we need to address.
Let's not assume that, oh, if I get one certificate over here, if I do one course over here, I will get a job. That is not true anymore.
Yes.
Right? You need less people to run software. Where we are getting to is probably more things are being done by software, but that is still a hypothesis. So what gets even more important is what do you learn in the time that you have.
So, boss, see, it's simple here. We have to get real now. So, there's a person who's studying in second year engineering college. So, life goes on, right? People see you finish plus two after school, you're not going to drop out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do plus two. After plus two, the only thing most people do is engineering. Majority of people do engineering. Yeah, you can say I do fine arts, I do that, I do this and all, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about mainstream. Even 70-80% of people who are coming out from plus two based on data are still doing engineering. You might have 20% of engineering colleges empty, but still 80% are there and it's all filled, right? So what do they do? Who has taken computer science, electronics, information science?
can I-
What
can
is
I-
it
can
that
I-
they
I'll
need to do?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
What
So
is it
can
that
I
they
ask
need to
you
do?
a question? Yes.
Yeah.
So have you heard someone giving an advice that build a GitHub repo, contribute more on GitHub repository as well, right? Or
Yeah.
build GitHub repo, right?
Yeah.
So as a student, they were confused
Yeah.
how to do, what to do.
Yes.
So if a student comes and asks me, I'll give them a generic advice.
Yeah.
Build a strong GitHub profile.
Yeah.
They'll be blank.
Yes.
Previously, they were completely blank. What to do, how to get those dark green marks on GitHub.
Yeah.
Right? But if I tell them now,
Yeah.
they have these tools.
Yes.
They can build something, create something. So that has changed, right? So learning is still there.
Yeah.
Implementation is still there.
Yeah.
Same repository is there. But now they can do more things within their limited time. Right. So that's what I feel like. That's what I'm saying. That instead of, I would spend less, if I were a student, I would spend less time in learning if else loop. But I would spend more time in the software engineering piece, learning software engineering piece, and where I can apply those knowledge.
Like I've seen more noise with, especially students and young developers because they just ask the LLM what should I put on my resume and what should I learn, it would tell you Kubernetes and all those production softwares that has nothing to do with learning basics or fundamentals, and they get lost into it and they keep circling there. It's very important to stick to just fundamentals that would help you ship things. And I've seen people who are getting jobs today are people who are building for themselves.
Jobs, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, jobs are coming.
Yeah, some people are like at least we are hiring and we're hiring on that basis that people who have built something, be it in second year, third year, they had the capability to build a small app, productionize it. They know how things work end to end, and that cannot come just by prompting with an LLM and understanding the high level abstract things. Like practical understanding and implementation is very important for second year, third year, fourth year students. Yeah. That is missing. Like I get a lot of people who say we are experts in Kubernetes, we have done a lot. I ask them what is the container versus a VM, they don't know. So I mean,
if you ask them virtually, they'll probably at that time
yeah,
have something they can answer you. But
if I may take a stab at that thing. See, I don't think we can have it both ways. When we say that, hey, there will be jobs for computer science students, we're also saying mechanical engineering people can also do coding, right? We can't have it both ways. I think it's fair to say that all the people who assume that they will get computer science jobs, there might not be jobs for them, okay? Because it's easier for anybody to do that. What will happen is, like we have in the doctor scenario, right? You can't stop at just the basic degree. You'll have to do a second degree. Why? Because then research becomes very important. Even today, when Claude says, or people in Anthropic say 90% of the coding is going to be done by software engineers, by AI, they're still hiring software engineers at extremely inflated salaries. So it's not going away. It is just getting pushed further up in terms of you need to have real skills to do the research. The second thing is when we have a large number of software engineers coming out year on year, it is because of an expected demand that was there previously. Okay? And for a certain time, the economy or this economy will be that supply will for a brief period overrun demand. And that's fair. It happens any time when there's a technological change. But in a generation, I'm talking about one educational generation, you will not find so many people choosing, say, computer science as an option. Maybe they'll now shift back to, say, mechanical engineering. Why? Because robotics is going to be a big deal, right? So there will be a cusp of period where overall for the economy, this is fine. But for the individuals who are just in that segment, there'll be a little bit of panic, right? But that will get resolved. And I would say to any student right now, continue learning what you're learning. The fundamentals are still important. It's not at a very basic degree. Don't assume you're getting free jobs if you get like 40% marks, right? You will have to go study a little harder. So keep studying, study further, and also spread knowledge in terms of, say, get a little bit of robotics, get a little bit of other things. And that will make you good for the future. And like I said, the next generation, there'll be less supply because we know the demand is not there, right? And that will get settled by itself automatically.
So I have a controversial take here, right? If your audience is students, I've been speaking to a lot of professors as well across colleges. And let me tell you, even the professors are confused. Today, in most colleges, it's a cat and mouse game saying, did the student use AI for submission or no? A lot of the students who have entered college or who are in college today have entered when the world was different. And the transition batch where the world is going to be very different later. Today, one of the best things you can do in college is figure out how things work, right? Use all these tools. But again, the world we are entering is not a world of depth. It's not that I know front-end code very well and so I'll get a job. No. It's a world of breadth where can I make sense of how systems work. For example, in India, we've always had this challenge that you have a graduate who comes in. You get into a company, you have no idea how a company functions, right? Because you've only done your own bit of code. What's the advantage of contributing to an open source repo? Hey, you have to work with other developers. You have to figure out what are coding standards, right? You figure out what are standards. How do I work to that? These are skills that you don't learn in colleges and what you need today, right? Because the moment you have that and you say, if someone comes to you with a job profile and in your interview, you figure out saying they know how my company works. You don't need to train. See, we're getting into a world where very soon companies are not going to invest in training. Earlier, companies would set up these academies saying, "Oh, colleges are not good enough. I'm going to train." Now they're going to say, "Hey, you learn and come. Yeah, I don't have time for you. You have to be industry ready." Question is, what is that? And one thing I keep telling youngsters is, see, unfortunately, a lot of our education system is a very lean back system. Someone's teaching me, I will memorize, I'll go this. This is a lean in system. You have to lean into the systems. You have to figure out how this whole thing is working, no matter how chaotic it is. You will make mistakes, no problem. It's an iterative process. But please, your future is in your hands. Don't go into colleges saying, 3 years ago the placements were so much and I will also get a job. That's not there anymore.
That's history. Yeah. So I've been like Harsh and me. Whenever we do events, we get a lot of students who come and talk to us and all that. I agree with all the points what you just said. So I also tell them that don't believe in this concept of jobs. Jobs by nature is getting redefined. You don't hire people permanently.
Yeah.
You hire them for an opportunity which is a contractual obligation. So the concept of freelancing will go up, meaning you sign a contract and you expect that person to deliver this. If that person has to deliver something, he can't just rely on the education system. Say I paid 1 lakh college fees and expect the college to come and teach them everything. It doesn't work. College is just a platform. He already has laptop. He has Gemini education offers there. Then he has other notebook LM and that and this and all that. And then he needs to now really understand all these concepts better as an engineer so that when he wants to sign up on a contract with somebody to deliver a certain message, he needs to know this and he needs to when to. So basically, he's saying that he's now hired a AI to drive the car. But he needs to know the engineering of the car better, right? So that he knows how to use the driver effectively. So that he'll be involved in not driving any longer, but he'll be involved in managing the entire car system using this driver. So that way he needs to get even more deeper and he can't just depend on the college syllabus. Oh, I have to do this subject, I have to get this and all that. It's just a 4 years time which you're doing just to get something out, but he needs to use those 4 years very, very productively to basically use all these tools and interest whatever area which he's interested to go deep.
The people who are losing jobs are people who are not able to adapt that fast, because in startups we are, it's the core thing for us to move fast, to iterate fast. So if we have an opportunity to move fast, to wipe code, to ship things, and then traditional developers, if they are not able to do that, then we'll have to have somebody permanently to who is able to adapt that and then ship it. So it's not that we would look for, we want to retain that talent, that context, because that cannot come after 6 months if somebody else is coming in. So I don't think the permanent job is going off, especially with startups. You hold even more value, but you hold the value if you can move along by using the AI tools and at that pace.
Yeah.
So I feel those who have fire will figure out a way.
Yeah.
Water always finds its way, will never stop. Right. And if you honestly ask me, those who want to build something will not watch our podcast. Will not spend 1 hour listening to 5 humans talking up between each other. Right. So they'll figure out their way, they'll spend their time learning, and they'll do best.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. If there is a fire, they'll find a way.
Yeah, I agree. No, and then the only thing in the startup thing is that you're not going to be only a software developer now in the future.
Yeah.
You're also going to be taking on a lot of other tasks.
Yeah.
Right. And as a startup, people will start finding that valuable.
Yeah.
You go in and say, I'm only going to build an app. No, boss. Nature
That doesn't
doesn't.
work. Yeah.
Right? Can you also do a little bit of sales for me? Can you handle growth for me? Can you handle marketing? I think we're seeing this collapse of a lot of these specializations into one people. And as she says, those few people will be very valuable. So if you can build skills across domains, I think that brings value.
I have a slightly different take on this. I think there is a little bit of a echo chamber in terms of the software people talking about independence, freedom, work from home, and all of that, right? And yes, what you said is very, very powerful. The ability for one person, I'm an individual developer now who's building full stack apps, also having to sell it, market it, all of that. But that's not the way the industry really works, right? Eventually, what is going to happen is whoever is skilled, they will get absorbed into bigger conglomerates, right? So today, if you see, you take one of the big four consulting firms, right? You could say, okay, there is a management guy, we can bring him for consulting, but that's not how it happens, right? So when there are good people, they tend to be accumulated by somebody who also gets economies of scale. And you want professionals. So tomorrow there's going to be a group of AI consultants. There's going to be a McKinsey slash AI Kinsey company that is just doing consulting on AI. So the skills that you develop in terms of management studies, all of that also become very relevant in big companies. You think of small research companies like, say, DNA Research that got bought over by Google, or DeepMind that got bought over by Google. They're not independent, right? What happens? They get absorbed into bigger companies because they have leverage, they've got scale, and there's an advantage in that also, right? So, but while this churn is happening in the stage, we'll feel okay, everything is getting scattered. You've got the individual ability, fine. You've got the individual ability to build a molt bot, right? But where it gets absorbed, it gets absorbed into OpenAI, right? So that also will happen. It's not that everybody is going to be splintered. All the people are going to work in individual silos, right? So both will happen. There will be a lot of action happening in these silos where people experiment with all the latest technology, and then it becomes some part of a bigger system, right? That is able to then take it across the world.
But I'm saying for people who are now studying or wanting to get into the industry, get jobs, what is your take? What will you tell them? What is your advice?
Because you do not know where the opportunity is going to come in the years to come. And the best way to be prepared is to do a little bit of everything so that anything comes up, we can then focus only on that. But if you go with none of that, if you go with nothing at all, it is not the companies or whoever's hiring you, it's not their responsibility to train you from zero. Show some initiative, right? And then they can take you with them. So my thing is, be do everything. Try a bit of everything. Don't hold yourself back. If something looks shiny and golden, go try it for a bit. We can't do it at our age, right? We don't have the time. We don't have the focus, right? They should do it.
And in this, the learning itself, I generally see there are two parts to it. One is a goal-oriented learning, saying I want a degree, so I'm going to learn, right? Or I want a job, I want to learn. The second is skill-oriented learning, saying I don't know this yet, but let me try, na? Let me build that skill. All the systems, right? Ultimately, what is it going to be? Will a Srinath plus AI be different from a Satish plus AI, or a Neha plus AI, or a Harsh plus AI? If you're evaluating, you're just coming back and saying all of you have your ways of working. I have this task. Yeah, who can do it better? Because in the future, all of us are going to be using AI. How well do we use it? What can we get from that? That is going to be the question. So build your practice early. Second, one thing I'd really say is don't cheat, right? I think we have too many cases where people are trying to use this for fraud, showcasing expertise that they don't have. And they don't realize it's very easy to catch.
Waste of time.
No, it's easy to catch. And I think in the future, repetition is going to be a huge part of your career. Can I trust you to deliver something? You don't want to start a career with a repetition saying this person is a fraud, right? So that's one thing I would say. Please don't cheat.
Go build something, because you would feel there is a lot to learn, but you would never cover that if you don't start and ship something today. I know it's a very simple advice, but a lot of them don't really go and just deliver something or ship something. It doesn't take you anything to build an app and list it on App Store. It doesn't take you anything to build a website and host it and post it on different community channels and see if that idea is working. It doesn't take a lot of you're not dependent on anybody else. And when you are building these things, you go work at some company, intern somewhere. You would definitely learn how these processes work, and you would get absorbed at one place or the other, and you keep iterating until you find what you like doing every day. That's something that I always tell everybody, that go build something and do something rather than just reading about it and being fearful about it.
Oh, thanks.
So what generally I advise in this is I advise them to try everything. Same, I think most of our points are same. But how I advise them, that I tell them this week, you learn all the type of database. SQL, no SQL. Firebase, Supabase, Cloud SQL, BigQuery, whatever it is. week, 10 days, you build something, ship it to all those databases. Right? You know what are the differences, when to use what, how to use what. Next week, 10 days, 1 month after, you move towards the security side of it. Take OWASP top 10, use AI tools to how to run OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities in those systems, right? Learn OWASP top 10s. Right? After that, you move towards the deployment side of it. So that's how you can learn multi things, parallel things. Imagine a product, imagine something that you want to build. Maybe if it's IPL is going on, maybe someone can build a system which can analyze players' performance, right? So now which database to use. Try all the kind of database. There's no cost of failing over here. Right? Each of those services is free trial. Sign up. Okay, not working, move it to other. Not working, move it to other. So that will help those students learn variety of things and then also identify where their passion lies. Right? And then select a field and become a specialist.
I'll give you an example there. So recently we hired a senior front-end developer, and I got 12,000 applications for it in 2 days. Do you know whom do we hired? A person who did not apply via the form, a person who actually went through our website, replicated that, vibe coded it, improved the messaging on the website and the aesthetics of the website, and sent that Loom video over an email that, hey, I saw that you were looking for a front-end developer. I tried this on your website. How does it look to you? And it made a conversation, and we ended up hiring him. So, that effort is something that counts. So,
and it's a demonstrable skill, right? You know, he's done it himself. You know that, and he's also sending it to you, saying he needs endorsement. So that itself is like he's already crossed 50%.
Exactly.
Now the balance 50% is what
you can imagine the person working there. You can imagine the person working there already.
Exactly. So it really counts when you make an effort, and then you just don't go and spam. And there are a lot of programs like Google Summer of Code, and there are more open source programs where you're getting paid for contributing, learning and contributing to open source projects.
Google Summer of Code has been there for more than 10 years now in India.
20 years.
More than that. So I don't know really how many of them are actually using it. It's still a very small percentage of people who are using it. I think that's a great program where people have not used it. They should start using it. And I don't think you need to be in college to start doing it. You can start coding right from your school days. So with that good news and positive note, let's end this conversation. Thank you all for your valuable time. Right. And feel free to engage with us through the developer community programs, which we've been doing. So keep interacting with us. Let us know what you feel about it so that we can come up with a much more sharper and fine-tuned content that can help you all become better at whatever you're doing. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.